Hey guys, it's Justyn. Welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about some of the key lessons that I have learned so far in my journey, as well as kind of giving you guys an update as to how I am progressing. I feel like I have learned so much throughout the last several months, so much from not only my therapist, but some other dietitians, my peers, and also just from me doing my own research. And I've said this before, but I kind of feel like I'm just this sponge just soaking in all of this brand new information. And because YouTube is what I love to do, and because I've been blessed enough to find an audience that is partially interested in this as well, I feel like this is my way to just kind of let it all out, you know? And I think it'll be pretty cool for me to actually be able to come back a year, 2 years from now and actually be able to see all of this documentation of my progress. So with that being said, I am titling today's video as Escaping Diet Culture. And the reason for that is because I feel like that phrase alone could probably summarize my entire journey and what all I am trying to do. So in the rare case that you might have found this video completely on its own and you're not quite caught up with everything else we have discussed, I will suggest for you to go ahead and watch my last 2 previous videos, as well as my documentary video that I filmed at the very beginning of this year. I think all of those videos combined will really give you a clear understanding as to how I got here and what exactly it is that I'm doing. So before we get into the kind of lessons or topics, I do want to go ahead and first start off by talking about my main source, which is my therapist. I've gotten a good amount of questions from you guys about how exactly I found her. Is she just a general therapist, or is she a food specific therapist? Is she actually a registered dietitian? What exactly is it that you guys talk about? So on and so forth. So first of all, my therapist is a nutritional therapist, and yes, she is also a registered dietitian, as well as being a certified intuitive eating counselor. So she's really not just a general therapist. I would pretty much say about 95 to like 100% of our conversations revolve around the spectrum of my relationship with food. And although yes, she is a registered dietitian, she actually considers herself to be a non-diet dietitian, which I believe is also the same thing as an anti-diet dietitian. I've seen a couple of people online use that term as well, which pretty much means that she's not the kind of registered dietitian that is like working up meal plans for me. She's not trying to give me some targeted macro breakdown for me to try to reach every single day. And she's also not checking in on my weight, trying to, micromanage that and see how that is fluctuating. More so, she is teaching me how to eat intuitively. She's helping me to understand food neutrality, and she is also just exposing me to all of the harmful practices of diet culture. And also, just so you guys know, she does practice from a health at every size standpoint, which pretty much means that the focus is less on my weight itself and more so on my lifestyle and behavioral changes that will support my overall health. So make sure you guys stay tuned until the very end of this video, because I will have some resources linked as to how you can find your own nutritional therapist in your area. So topic number 1, and the reason I titled this video as it is, recognizing and distancing myself from diet culture. So pretty much immediately from my very first therapy session, I felt like my eyes were just open to the realization of how heavily influenced I had been from diet culture. I had heard the term diet culture before, probably on some fitness motivation Instagram quote page, but I had a very small understanding of what exactly it was. And that was mostly due to the fact that honestly, I really didn't care to understand. Because when you're so engulfed in it and it really just feels like that's all you know, it can be hard for you to actually just see it for what it is and all of the flaws surrounding it. So in my very first session, we basically spent the first half of it going over my intake form. So me just pretty much telling her my whole story, how I got to that point, why I was visiting her in the first place, so on and so forth. And I remember that as I was telling her about my story, I kept using the word failed. Like, I tried keto and then I failed. I tried this diet and then I failed. I also tried WW, and you know what? I was actually successful for a little bit, but then ultimately I failed, and I've been failing ever since to try to get back on track. And right there, she stops me and she explains to me that it really wasn't me failing the diets, but more so the diets failing me, which I know if you're hearing this for the first time, it's a very interesting concept, but just stick with me. The diet industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's built on repeat customers. So the diets themselves aren't actually built for you to be successful on them. Or if you are successful, then eventually you're gonna fall off because they're usually not sustainable, hence making you feel the need to restart it later on or completely just try a new one, which just ends up putting you in that yo-yo back and forth cycle. Now, when I first heard this, I'm not gonna lie, my first reaction was, although I was hearing her and although I was really trying to be open-minded, I was not quite believing it, because in my mind, I still felt like diets work as long as you work them. Like even by that point, I had already cut off my affiliation with WW, but I still felt back then that the program works when you work the program. And if I'm not succeeding or I'm not losing weight or whatever, then that's really nobody's fault but my own. And I also thought of a few people that I knew who had gone on a diet, lost X amount of weight, and they were good forever. They never ended up backtracking. But after a while, I really started to see it in a new light. And I realized that, for one, I know of way more people who have gone on a diet and either been unsuccessful or eventually gained all of their weight back than I do of people who just never ended up having problems again. Just from WW alone, and I'm not saying this to try to pick on WW, they're just the company that I have the most history with, but I actually remember in the very beginning of me starting, wondering why there were so many repeat customers. Like very often, either in my DMs or in my actual meetings, I would meet people who had maybe tried WW for the first time in the 90s, and then they came back in like 2007, and then they came back and did it again in 2015, and now they're back on it again for their fourth, fifth, sixth time. I would hear stories like that all the time. Or you would see members who had been there like consistently for 5+ years and they were still struggling to lose or maintain their weight. And I get that WW has their whole like lifetime program, which that is a whole nother conversation. But it was just like very interesting to me once I really started to see it for what it was. Everything she was saying about how this industry is built on consistently bringing those same people it promised that it would work for right back, all of that turned out to be true. To give you guys another scenario, I've also seen multiple people who have been like on diets like keto or just very strict calorie counting. And yes, while they're on it, they are very successful. But literally the second they stop, they are unable to maintain their weight and they usually end up backtracking. And I know somebody might say, okay, well, as long as you never stop the diet, then you're good. But I mean, honestly, who wants to diet forever? Like if it's not something that you could sustainably see yourself doing forever, then eventually at some point, you're gonna end up going back in the opposite direction and just having to restart the entire cycle all over again. I've also done some of my own thinking, and just hypothetically speaking, let's just say there was this magical diet out there that somehow worked for everybody. And it worked for everybody the very first time, which means that anytime somebody got on it, they never ever had to go back to another diet again. So if everybody in the world that had a weight problem went on this diet, how much money do you think the diet industry would lose immediately? We're talking about billions and billions of dollars. So with all of that information, as well as some other stuff that's been brought to my attention, over time, I have learned to recognize diet culture traits. And when I tell you they're everywhere, they are everywhere. And also I began distancing myself from it. So that means muting and unfollowing people on social media that I can tell are very engulfed in it as well. Avoiding any media with possible triggers. And my personal favorite, which is allowing it to go in one ear and right out the other. So topic number 2 is measuring progress holistically rather than just focusing on one factor. So for this one, I'm actually going to tell you guys a story of one of the very few times that I actually got pretty emotional in one of our sessions. And this was because for a few months, I had been teetering up in the upper 290s and I was getting very, very close to that 300-pound mark. If you watched my previous video, then you know whenever I started intuitive eating, I was already like around 285 pounds and climbing. So if I'm already going up in weight before intuitive eating, it's kind of obvious that I'm going to continue that streak, especially now given that I no longer have any food rules and I'm not really even focusing on weight loss. But honestly, I don't think that I have ever been more tempted to just forget all of this, forget everything that I learned so far and run straight back to dieting, because I don't know, something about seeing a 300 on the scale was just absolutely terrifying to me. And so I began to panic and really question whether or not this is for me, like whether or not I'm doing the right thing. And again, like I mentioned before, I felt like I was a failure. And as my therapist and I talked this through, she not only, for one, first of all, validated the fact that it is normal to have these feelings and feel scared or discouraged that this might not be for me, but she also really encouraged me to take a second and just stop and look at my entire life as a whole. At this point, my eating has improved. My sleeping schedule has gotten better. I'm working out more frequently and consistently than I ever have been. And because of that, guess what? My energy levels have gone up. Now that I'm back living with family and I'm not isolated 24/7, my mood has gotten better because I actually just have people and energy around me. I finally attended that dance class that I have been talking about for months and I was just scared of going. And now a few months later, I can even add on to that list with just the mere fact that my confidence alone has been doing wonders. I'm now doing things that I have been so scared to do for so long. I'm wearing crop tops out in public. I'm wearing sports bras out in public. I'm going to the pool by myself. I've been going out to eat by myself. I'm literally making TikToks of me dancing in parking lots by myself. Like, if you take the Justyn from 6 months ago, me in December, and just compare her to the Justyn that I am now, look how much I've accomplished. Like, look how much I've grown. From a person who was afraid of doing things by herself, who stayed in a toxic relationship for years because I didn't understand and value my own worth, and quite honestly was just existing and not living, to now someone who has decided that, yeah, this life is worth living. And don't get me wrong, everything isn't perfect now, but how belittling is it of me to think that if the scale isn't moving in my favor, in the direction that I feel like it needs to go, all of a sudden all of that doesn't matter and I'm just a failure at life. So that exercise taught me that although yes, it is okay to maybe not like something about yourself and possibly in the future, eventually change it, at the end of the day, I am so much more than my weight and my body size. Like, literally my entire quality of life has improved. So why would I allow that weight gain to be the sole measurement of all of my progress? It just doesn't make sense. So for topic number 3, we're gonna be talking about facing adversity. So I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this wasn't even on the original list of things for me to talk about. I had a whole nother thing planned that I wanted to get into, but after seeing the reaction to my last video, I felt like this was worth bringing up. So something that my therapist told me in our very first session, after I told her that I'm a YouTuber and I make majority of my content based on my weight loss journey, is that I was going to receive a bunch of conflicting information in between her as somebody who's really trying to help me heal my relationship with food and my audience who, just like myself, were also completely engulfed in diet culture. And really, out of everything that I've learned so far, I feel like that piece of advice, or really it was just a flat out warning, was probably one of the most beneficial pieces of information that I could have been told. And that was because it really just prepared me for what I'm having to deal with now. Because I've now had 6 months to really be able to process that and also practice recognizing signs of diet culture, going back to what I said earlier, it's been so super helpful for me to just slip it in one ear and out the other. Now, I know the major comeback to this is going to be like, okay, Justyn, but what about your health? And I get that some of you guys are genuinely concerned for my health. I mean, I'm concerned for it as well. But also, it's just very interesting to me that up until last week, pretty much like 99.9% of everything that I posted was being very, very well received. And it was followed up with these compliments like, yes, girl, you're doing it. You're killing it. You're so motivated. You seem so confident. I can tell the changes in you. I'm so proud of you for prioritizing your mental health. Like, get it, girl. And not only that, but a good amount of people were actually assuming that I was losing weight. And even in my first video back when I announced that, hey guys, I am intuitively eating now, majority of the comments were just filled with positivity and just people genuinely happy for me. But now that I've let y'all in on the fact that even with all of that, I am 300 pounds. Oh my gosh, you are gonna die an early death. Intuitive eating does not work for you. You need to diet immediately. Like, you have lost your mind. You need to go find a new therapist because clearly whatever she's telling you got you brainwashed. Like, what are you doing? Hold up. What's with the switch up? Because until I dropped that piece of information, everybody was here for it. And guess what? I've been 300 pounds since March. It's now June, so it's really not giving me we're actually concerned for your health. It's more so giving me fat phobic. Because if you were so concerned, then why are you just now saying something? I've looked the same this whole time. I've been doing the same things this whole time. I've been practicing the same way of eating this whole time. It's just now that you are aware that I am 300 pounds, all of a sudden everybody just turns into a freaking doctor apparently. But anywho, honestly, I really wasn't surprised because I was expecting it. I think I would have been more shocked if I didn't receive any kind of criticism. And actually, I felt like that was a very pivotal point for me because I was able to read those comments and just continue scrolling and go on with my day unbothered. Before, like a year ago, something like that would have absolutely devastated me, and it would have made me second guess everything and probably run straight back to dieting just because that's what some strangers online told me I need to do. But now, even though I do have some doubts here and there, I'm confident in what I'm doing, and I know overall I am prioritizing my mental health, and I just know that this is what's best for me at this given moment. Really quick though, just to address the issue of my health, I feel like one of the biggest misconceptions with intuitive eating is that it doesn't even take that into account, which is not true because in all actuality, health plays a very big role in it. I know a lot of people think that intuitive eating is just having permission to eat dozens of donuts and pizzas and fries and just stuffing your face, but that's really not what it is, and that's gonna have to be another conversation for another day. All right guys, I really hope that you enjoyed today's video. Although I'm not posting about my journey trying to get people to join me, I'm really just sharing my own experience. If you are interested in finding your own intuitive eating counselor, you can go to intuitiveeating.org, and on that website they actually have a counselor directory. You can filter out people based on your exact location. So I will leave that link down below in the description box. Also, just to let you guys know on how I actually found my therapist, I just went on Google and typed in the name of my city plus terms like food therapist, eating disorder therapist, binge eating disorder counselor, just kind of words like that. And ultimately it led me to her. So yeah, for today's super special secret emoji, very special shout out to Gail Hunter, shout out to Steffi C, and shout out to Miss Elaine Weaver 12. Also, I want to give a very extra special shout out to Marilyn Buford. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She made some comments on my last video that literally just took some of the words right out of my mouth. It made me feel like I really didn't even have to defend myself. And something that everybody might not understand is that whenever I'm doing this, I'm going through this journey, I'm posting it out for the world to see, and it's something very different and it goes completely against societal norms. It can feel very lonely because, to be honest, I really don't have that big of a support system. So I just wanted to say thank you, girl. I really do appreciate all of the words you said. They didn't go unnoticed, as well as to the many other people who not even had my back, because to be honest, I didn't even look at it as a positive versus negative thing. I just looked at it as, oh, these people get it, these people understand, and these people don't. So shout out to all of y'all. I really do appreciate it. And for today's super special secret emoji, we're gonna go with the globe world emoji. Any part of the world, it doesn't matter. So comment that down below and you will be possibly shout out in my very next video. And as always guys, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Join me on this journey, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye guys.